In this video we'll be looking at rhyme and rhyme schemes. So there are different types of rhyme that you can get. The first is perfect rhyme, and that's where the words that rhyme have the same assonance, the same sound, and they have the same number of syllables. So that's called a perfect rhyme. For example, meat and feet, bite and right. You'll notice the spelling can be different, but the sound has to be the same. So here are a few examples of perfect rhymes. So you'll notice that what we're looking at is the sound of the word, not how it's spelt. So meat, as in to meet up with someone, and meat, what you eat, even though they're spelt differently, have the same sound, the same assonance, and therefore they rhyme perfectly. And bite and right, even though they're spelt differently, have the same sound as well. And sight and fight and spate and hate. So these are all perfect rhymes. Another type of rhyme is called half rhyme, or slant, or imperfect, or near rhyme, or even eye rhyme or sight rhyme. So these are words that look similar, maybe because they're spelt in the same way, but have different sounds. So where it's not perfect, where the rhyme is slightly off. So let's have a look at a few examples of that. So let's look at half rhyme. So the first three are called slant rhyme, and that's because it either ends with the same consonant or the same assonance. So for example, bat and bit both end with the consonant T, so even though A and E are different vowel sounds, the same consonant, therefore it's slant rhyme. Hat and bad use very similar sounding vowel sounds, so it uses the same assonance, and therefore is a half rhyme, even though the T and the D are different sounds. Where you have poncho and crunchy, the CH sound, you have the consonants in the final syllable, even though it ends in an O and a Y. And then the last example is of a sight rhyme, an eye rhyme. It's spelt the same, even though the sound move and love are very different. So it kind of works just by looking at the word. And then you get internal rhyme. This is where the rhymes appear in the middle of a line or across different lines. So, the classic example is the cat in the hat sat on the mat. You've got the at. All of those perfect rhymes, of course, and they all rhyme even though they're not the last words in a line of poetry. So here's an example, The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. So the first thing you'll notice is some internal rhyme. You've got dreary and weary are perfect rhymes. They sound the same number of syllables, and so on. So those are perfect rhymes, but they're internal rhymes. But you've also got weak and weary. The EA, slightly different sounds, slightly different assonance, and different consonants, but they form a kind of sight rhyme with each other. Over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping. So you've got apping, and then you've got rapping again on the next line. So those are all internal rhymes. And then you've got chamber door. The next line ends in door, and then more. So you've got the repetition of the or sound. So that kind of, we've analysed the different rhymes that you get in that poem. But how would you describe it overall? That's one stanza of the poem. How would you describe the rhyme scheme of that stanza? Well, it's traditional to use letters of the alphabet to describe each separate rhyme. So if we do that, it would look like this. For the rhyme scheme, you only look at the last words in the line of poetry, in the verse. So you've got airy, and that's the first sound, so you call that A. Then you've got or, that's a different sound, so you call it B. Then you've got apping, that's a third different sound, so you call it C. And then you've got a repetition of the or sound. or, and or. So you end with BBB. So this is a 6-line stanza, and in the poem there are 18 of these 6-line stanzas, and they all follow the same rhyme scheme: A, B, C, B, B, B. So we'll look at one final example to get an idea how this works. I'll put the poem up, then please pause the video and see if you can work out what the rhyme scheme is, and then play further to see if you were right. So here are the first 2 stanzas of Robert Frost's famous poem, The Road Not Taken. Pause the video here, look through the poem, and using the letters A, B, C, etc., try and work out what the rhyme scheme of the poem is. Pause it here. Sorry, I've got some really noisy students in the background. So how did you do? Do you agree with my rhyme scheme? So if we look at the first stanza, we've got oath, oath, oath. So A, B, A, B. Moving to the second stanza, now strictly speaking, air isn't oud or oath. It's a different sound, so we should use C, and then aim is also different, so we should use D. But I've just kept looking for the pattern in each stanza. So the second stanza follows the same pattern. You've got air, aim, air, aim. So all of those are perfect rhymes, and there might well be some internal rhyme as well. See if you can spot it. But each stanza follows the pattern of A, B, A, B. Okay, internal rhyme, can you spot one? So you'll notice in the second line it says, and sorry I could not travel both. So you have a repetition of the oud sound, that A sound, in the second line, but it's not the end word of the line of verse, so it doesn't get counted as part of the rhyme scheme, but you would consider it when looking at the use of rhyme in the poem. And I'm just looking to see very quickly if I can spot any other internal rhymes. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are, but I can't really spot any really quickly. So there you have it. That's how you would describe a rhyme scheme, which allows you to then start unpacking it and talking about it. What is the effect of a rhyme scheme? It gives regularity to a line of verse, to a poem. It gives structure. So let's have a look at slant rhyme. Slant rhyme is always more tricky to spot, and it doesn't give the same sense of rhythm of perfect rhyme, but it does give a structure to the poem. So if you look at the first and third lines, you've got the ON. So you've got that end consonant, which is the same. So it's a slant rhyme. Then you've got bodies and ladies, even though it's the unstressed syllable, the IES at the end is exactly the same, but it's the unstressed syllable. So it's bodies and ladies sounds different. So it's not a perfect rhyme, but it is a slant rhyme. And it does give a structure to the poem as a whole. So slant rhyme, even though it doesn't emphasize things, it doesn't sound as rounded as perfect, gives structure to the poem. So what does rhyme do for a poem? It gives us a sense of rhythm. So when you hear the same sound repeated, whether it's using alliteration or using rhyme, it gives a kind of set rhythm to the poem, a musicality if you like. Let's look at an example and see how it works through. So look at a poem called Woman Work by Maya Angelou. I've got the children to tend, the clothes to mend, the floor to mop, the food to shop, then the chickens to fry, the baby to dry, got company to feed, the garden to weed, I've got shirts to press, the tots to dress, the cane to be cut, I got to clean up this hut, then see about the sick and the cotton to pick. Shine on me, sunshine, rain on me, rain, fall softly dewdrops and cool my brow again. So what you see is a very regular pattern in the first stanza, and it's couplets. So groups of 2 lines that rhyme, rhyming couplets. Tend, mend, mop, shop, fry, dry, feed, weed, press, dress, cut, hut, sick, pick. And having that very regular rhythm to the rhyme, tend, to mend the floor, to mop the flute, to sop the bum, it sets up a rhythm to the poem. And when you move to the second stanza, the rhyme changes, and that changes the pace. So you've got a sense of relentless work to be done in that first stanza, and then you've got, as the pace slows, you've got a sense of relief from that work, where you can take a moment away from that work. So the rhyme can help establish a rhythm, and it can also add to the meaning as well. Look out for, read it aloud, read poetry aloud, hear the sounds in your ears as you pronounce them, and see if you can notice any effect that it has, either on the pace, and the pace might affect the meaning, as in this case. Rapid work, just so much to do, and it comes quick and fast, one after the other, the tasks that you have to do, and then the kind of slight relief that you've got from relentless work. So see if that kind of amplifies the meaning in any way. Then you've got something really interesting to talk about when you analyze a poem.